stuff. I use humor as a defense mechanism, so some of this might be funny. You can laugh at that. So this is, I was told by a friend to bring a water bottle. This is a water bottle from the Whoa Nelly Deli. If you're familiar with Lee Vining, it was his favorite gas station. They have a really great restaurant there at this mobile gas station. But all these hungry people come down from Yosemite after backpacking and they eat these great gourmet meals at a gas station. So I brought this. I'll probably go through all that. And I'm going to read too because I don't trust myself to not read. Many of you knew my dad well, so some of what I'm going to say you may already know, but some of it may come as a surprise. If you knew Roger well, or if you knew him at all, you knew that he had a love-hate relationship with the world. He loved to travel. His travels took him all over the world, to the top of peaks, to the lowest spot in the U.S., to deserts, to rainforests, to islands. He went everywhere, and he loved it. And he loved maps. Even though you can look up anything on your phone now, he carried maps with him everywhere he went. There's some maps out there, we have them. By the way, I don't want to take any of those maps home. I don't use maps. I have my own that I saved of his. And I don't want to throw them away, so please, there's a sign out there for you to take them. I really want you to take those maps. He went on driving trips. He liked to go 300 to 400 miles a day. When I was young, I think 3 years old, we took a trip around the United States. In 1 month, we went from California to Florida to New York and back to California. And he loved every minute of that. I didn't. So that's the love. So here's some hate. He hated inconsiderate drivers. If you had your brights on behind him at night, he'd take a flashlight out, shine it. I'll show you. And if you were a tailgater, be careful. He'd tap those brakes a little hard, and it could be dangerous. He loved to eat. There wasn't much he enjoyed more than a good, tasty meal. He usually only had 2 meals a day, so they were very large. When I was growing up, his cereal bowl, I'm not joking, was that big around and that deep, and it was full and coming over the top. He would get seconds and sometimes even thirds, and there was a joke around the holidays that he would purposefully leave some mashed potatoes or some green beans so that he could even out his plate. So he had to get more stuffing and more turkey to even it out. And then he'd have more stuffing and turkey left over, so he had to get more green beans and mashed potatoes. He hated a bad meal, especially on vacation. Nothing's worse than being on vacation, which he loved, than having a bad meal. He loved gardening. He was always trying to tame his yard, and he did a pretty good job. Even up here on 3 acres, his yard was pretty well maintained. It was beautiful. His yard in Whittier was gorgeous. He lived in this suburban, neighborhood in Southern California, but you go in his backyard and you would feel like you were somewhere else. It was gorgeous. He hated turkeys and deer because they destroyed his yard. His perfection that he created. You'll notice out there a broom, a little whisk broom. That's the Turkey Chaser 2000. You're going to see it in the video in a little bit. One time we come pulling up to his driveway. We're going to go somewhere, I don't know where. There's the 4 of us, and we're all going to fit 5 in a car. We're going probably breakfast at Sweetie Pie's or something. Unannounced, my dad comes running from behind his house. He had come out, snuck out his garage door. He comes running with this whisk broom. It's this little whisk broom on a long handle, and it was like 40 years old. He comes running, swinging it over his head. Ah! And he comes past us. Ah! And he hucks it at these turkeys. Well, that Turkey Chaser broke. So I got him that Turkey Chaser for Christmas. It's a great video. It's the second one. He loved scenic views. Whenever he would see one, he would make this noise. Oh. Like coming into Kings Canyon. I remember that one specifically. If you ever come into Kings Canyon, it's gorgeous. And he would make that noise. He loved scenery. Just if you know where he lives and you know the view that he has, you understand that he loves scenery. And he hated Microsoft Word. He wrote letters in Excel. Dad, why are you writing letters in Excel? That's what I know how to use. If I had to guess, okay, the lovely part's over. If I had to guess, his dream job would have been a photographer, Arizona Highways Magazine. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yep. He never said that, but I would guess that that would have been his dream job. He loved photographing scenery, especially on his trips. While we were looking through all his pictures, we had to go, there was stacks and stacks of slides that were just all scenery. It was really hard to find pictures of people. Did you know that he was born 3 months premature in 1941? He should not have survived. I should not be here. My kids should not be here. It's a miracle. He was a miracle baby. Did you know that he worked full-time putting himself through college? Full-time, 40 hours a week, and went to college. Did you know that he bowled a perfect game of spares? He was very competitive. At his house in Whittier, he had a separate garage. And there was so much competition from the garage to the house. You couldn't just openly say, race you to the front door. You had to remember that there's always a race from the garage to the front door. So if you spoke it, you lost. So we'd be walking, looking at each other. And then we would, but you have to walk. If you run, it wasn't fair because he could beat me. I was this tall. So you have to walk and not tell the other person you were racing, but race. And you were competing against the garage door. You had to get there before the garage door closed. He loved playing Oshaw and Hearts, 2 card games that are family favorites that we played, I don't know, hundreds of times, right? Settlers, there's a game called Settlers that we played. We always teased him. He was so competitive. If you put the robber on him, he would slap his knees together. For 25 years, we played the Pink Pearl game. The Pink Pearl is a little eraser, little pink eraser, you know, kind of with the beveled edges. We would hide it. So when I'd come visit him down at his house, I would try to hide it somewhere where he would find it when I was gone. And then when he'd come up to visit me, he would try to hide it someplace where I would find it when he was gone. And you tried to get it so that the last person, you know, you didn't want to be the person with the pink pearl. So shoes, that was done so long ago. Pillowcases, at the foot of his bed. There were some places where he didn't find it for a couple of months. I put it under his mashed potatoes once. I put it in a plastic bag, you know, because that would be gross to not. And I put a glob of mashed potatoes on there, and he was eating it, and he found the pink pearl. He was a fast-pitch softball pitcher. He could throw a mean fastball and could even curve the ball, but he had a huge mental block and could not, for the life of him, throw a ball to first base without it hitting the ground before it hit the first baseman's mitt. They called those worm burners. He did not really like animals, but he loved his 3 goats. He even bottle-fed one of them, Freddie. He would gather leaves from his buckeye trees and weeds from the side of the road to feed his goats. One time we were driving home on Doe Street. Were you guys there? Or was it just the 2 of us? We're driving home, and there he is on the side of Doe Street in these ridiculous short shorts that are probably like something you would sleep in, but they came up to like here. And this hideous yellow shirt that's not part of the quilt. And his LL Bean moccasins, right? You all saw him in his LL Bean moccasins, picking oak leaves from a neighbor's oak tree. Now the house was vacant, so those leaves were gonna go to waste. But he stood there kind of hiding behind the tree, hoping that we wouldn't see him. But we saw him. He had a little bit of OCD. His desk was extremely organized. I heard some yeahs. His desk was extremely organized. His paper clips were all facing like this. Not necessarily like this, but they weren't like that. They were all like that. I don't know about you, but when I pull a paper clip out from my desk, I get 5 at once. His are all separate, all facing the same thing. When we brought him home for hospice, I needed a twin size sheet. I couldn't find any in his closets. He has 2 twin beds. So I went to go get one off of his twin bed thinking that's where they are. Pulled back the cover and there was a note. It said, pillowcase and bottom sheet clean as of January 2016. That's some OCD. Every day he would track the cash he spent. So it wasn't enough to just withdraw $20 from the ATM and spend it willy-nilly. You had to categorize where that cash went, right, Marie? Down to the dollar. I remember him asking me on vacation, and you'll see a picture. The reason I included this picture, he's on a bed, we're in Zion National Park, wearing some of those ridiculous short shorts, with a thing in front of him, and I'll bet you that's him doing his cash accounting for that day. Dave, what did I spend $1.50 on today? I don't know. He kept such thorough and accurate records, he literally could tell you how much he paid for something he purchased back in the 1960s. I'm not joking. He would go get his record. Back in 1963, I bought that comforter for $4.85. He had lists for everything, to-do lists of people who sent him Christmas cards. So he also, that means he had lists of people who didn't send him Christmas cards. And when he went to see the doctor, he had a complete medical history in Excel, a complete family medical history, a medication list, a fluid intake summary, a calorie intake summary. How about that college football pool? He ran the college football pool for 20, 25 years. A simple college football pool every year. He loved that college football pool. And he had travel summaries. If he went somewhere, he took a diary, he wrote in a diary, and he did a travel summary. And if you didn't give him your summary in a timely manner, he'd let you know. He loved accounting. The harder the accounting problem, the more he loved it. I can't say it better than one of his clients of 36 years who said to me in an email, Roger and I have been real friends and comrades across the miles. Excuse me. That does work. Roger and I have been real friends and comrades across the miles. I have huge admiration for Roger for his perfect moral compass, high standards, professionalism, common sense, and intelligence. We fought and won some battles together. There was never a question Roger could not answer for me, and never a penny that went astray under his evil eye. I was so fortunate to have Roger in a position of oversight and support for our small staff. He was an incredible father. When I was young, every other weekend, he would drive 8 hours round trip to pick me up on a Friday and another 8 hours on Sunday to bring me back home. And when I moved to the Sacramento area, he would pay to fly me down to LA every other weekend. He took me on many trips, including Europe, Hawaii a couple of times, a bunch of places in the Southwest like the Grand Canyon, Zion, Bryce, Moab, Yellowstone in the summer and in the winter. Cross-country skiing in Yellowstone was incredible. A week-long rafting trip on the Green River, a cross-country skiing trip in Montana at Christmas where my hair froze. We were in the hot tub. And by the time we ran from the hot tub back to our room, our hair was frozen solid. But that was pretty cool because we met and ate family-style dinners that trip with the U.S. Olympic biathlon team. So at the same table so we got to watch them in the next Winter Olympics. We ate dinner with them. He was an excellent grandfather. When Kaylee and Thomas were little, he would come stay with us every month or two. Just to be with them while they were growing up. He didn't want to miss a thing. He would play at their level, spending hours out in the yard, pretending with them, climbing trees and rocks, which was very unlike him. It was usually either Roger's way or no way, but he did it their way. And he had such a strong faith in God and Jesus, which was strengthened even more when he found Light of the Hills, this church, for those of you who are visitors. He went on his first mission trip with Light of the Hills to Alaska, something he probably would not have done before. While I'm on that note, I just want to say thank you to all of his, his friends here. He's a single man, quirky, stubborn, but genuine and caring. You took him in. A bunch of couples invite him over for dinner, stomping on grapes and making wine, and probably drinking too much of it. While he was in the hospital or at home, I can't remember if it was while he was at home, but while he was in the hospital, he had delirium, and if you're not familiar with delirium, people don't know what's going on. They don't know where they are. They're grabbing for things that aren't there. They're mumbling. I couldn't understand what he was saying. And it was really sad and frustrating. I asked him what he thought about Jesus, and he said, "Oh, I really love him," without even a thought. "Oh, I really love him." And I said, when do you think you're going to go see him?" And he said, "God only knows." When his friends came to visit him in the hospital, and he was very unaware of what was going on around him. The delirium was strong. He started saying the Lord's Prayer, and he joined in. We received a gift from God on a Sunday before he died. There was a rainbow in the sky in his view, right in his view. I have a picture of it, I can show it to you. Right in his view, the night before, reminded me of, and my wife, of God's promise. The next day was Sunday. We put him in a wheelchair. He hadn't been out of bed for a week and a half. He was eating and drinking. He had some sparkling water. He said, "Man, that hit the spot." Now remember, for a week and a half, he's not been Roger. He didn't know where he was. You couldn't understand what he was saying. He would tell you to go, he's in the hospital saying, "Go put the boxes in my bedroom in the hallway." You know, stuff like that, if you could understand it. So here he is, eating and drinking. We're watching 60 Minutes, and there's a story about the Chicago Cubs when they won the World Series, and it was kind of the backstory. And my dad says, and remember, he did not know where he was up until this point. And he says, "Really like watching sports programs in this postseason. You get to find out more of the story than you do during the regular season." Wow. Thank you, God. We all got to say we loved him that day, and he got to say it back. It was a great day. I'm going to read something from his Advanced Healthcare Directive. This is almost the end. I'm not going to read the top part because it's kind of morbid, but it talks about what to do after. But he says, and I quote, "However, I do not wish to be buried with the pink pearl or have any of my remains combined with the pink pearl." He what? I have it now forever. And I don't wish to be buried with the pink pearl. He will be deeply missed, and I feel like there's a hole in my heart. That something essential in my life is gone. But I am certain that he's with God, and that brings me and my family a great deal of comfort. Thank you all very much for being his friend and for coming. Appreciate it. You want to say something? Yeah, it's okay.
I met my father-in-law 29 years ago when I was 16 years old. We ate pizza and watched a baseball game in a hotel room when he was up for one of his famous trips to see Dave. I was in deep life with Dave at the time and felt so honored to meet him. He was this very interesting father that went on amazing trips and loved to share his travels through a slideshow. Another endearing quality of my father-in-law was his love to garden. I was so impressed. Roger modeled commitment and devotion to his family and loved his grandchildren. He played and held them as long as they wanted and was so patient with them. He was called Beepaw by Kaylee and Butta by Thomas. For me, Roger introduced me to many things, like my first trip to Southern California, the farthest I had ever traveled. Unfortunately, the plane ride did not agree with me, and I threw up in his beautiful Mercedes. Not the best way to to impress the father of the man I love.
We're at love now.
Yes. Yeah, we're in love now. One of my favorite memories of Roger was going to his home in Whittier, having his famous salsa on chicken tacos, and playing basketball in his driveway. We have this picture of Roger doing 3 and 1. I had beat him 3 times at horse. And within the next time that I visited Roger, that basketball hoop was torn down. We always made our way to visit his mother, a truly devoted son. As a father, he was always there to listen and comfort Dave, a committed father. His love has always been with us, even when he wasn't with us physically. Roger shared his love for the outdoors with my brother and me by taking us to Yosemite for the first time. Another first. Raj RDN, my dear father-in-law, was an amazing man, a hard worker, a faithful servant of God, a loving father, and a fantastic grandfather. I love you, Roger.
John Poplar is a member of our church. Is going to speak now as a friend, a dear friend of ours.